Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're gonna talk about the election. It's just a few weeks away. We're getting into crunch time now. The polls are unbelievably close. It could go either way, and I've just got a few things I've got to get off my chest. So I've been posting content on multiple platforms. Of course, people respond and I reply to their comments. And then I go on to other platforms and leave comments as well. And so I've had a lot of back and forth recently with voters across the country. And I obviously watch a lot of news, from multiple outlets from both sides of the spectrum. So I kind of have an idea of the discourse, the political discourse that's been going on. Of course, it almost entirely revolves around Trump. If you ask a Kamala Harris supporter, what about Kamala Harris do you like? It's that she's not Trump. And her being picked as the first black woman vice president, they really have no other accomplishment to speak of, other than just to say, well, vice presidents don't do very much. They really have no legitimate reason to vote for Harris that they can explain to me or articulate to me other than she's not Trump. And so the conversation just shifts to Trump. But one thing I've noticed and one thing I want to talk about tonight is trying to pan out. It's like there's an entire city block that's on fire. And someone keeps handing you binoculars trying to get you to focus on one house with one porch with one person. And trying to get you to focus on something when I need to put the binoculars down and realize the entire city block is on fire. And I feel like that's happening as we're getting hyper-focused on specific character traits, especially of Trump, when we need to pan out and look at the condition of our country, the condition of the world, and really understand things in a more broader sense. And so that's kind of the point of this video, is I want us to think about everything that's going on and really do a deep dive. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The number one reason I'll be voting for Trump is that he aligns with the right and libertarians, and that everyone on the authoritarian leftist side are united against him. That's the number one reason. When you look at your friends and you look at your enemies, that tells you a whole lot. It seems like the entire media, the mainstream media, except for Fox News, are one liberal hive mind that think alike, speak alike, are in one accord, and they have one goal and one mission, and that is to paint Donald Trump as an evil existential threat to America, and to paint anyone who doesn't see that as an absolute moron. And it appears that the media and the Democratic Party, which are doing the same thing, are aligned with people like Iran, who are trying to kill Trump. I don't mean they're aligned literally. I don't mean that they're talking to each other and they're coordinating. I mean in their hatred toward Trump. Now, I'm not referring to some kind of collusion to get somebody elected. I'm talking about Iran appears to be trying to kill Trump. There's been 2 attacks on Trump, 2 assassination attempts. One, a bullet actually hit him in the ear. And then there was another potential one this past week. Just to be honest, that's the main reason I support him. That's not the only reason. But he literally is for the things I'm for the most part. When he was president, he did things I thought were great, for the most part. I definitely want to be clear. There are people that vote Democratic that are kind of moderate. There are people that vote Republican that are far right. There's people all along the spectrum, from far left to far right to being moderate and all in between. So I fully understand that not everybody on the left believes the same about every issue and the same on the right. Many people in many different areas. A lot of people, when it comes to social issues, are on the left, but when it comes to financial issues like capitalism versus communism, they're definitely on the right. But you also can make some generalities, and they're definitely oversimplifications. There's certain things that everyone on the left tends to believe in, or at least is sympathetic toward. And there's general things that everyone on the right are sympathetic toward or believe in or vote for. And so really you can just look at what they say, what their rhetoric is, how they voted, the things they stand for, who their friends are, who their enemies are, and you can kind of get an idea of what the two sides are all about and what they want to happen in America. And then the worst thing of all, and I'm going to touch on this more later, is that in recent times the Republicans have become very libertarian. That's good. But the Democrats and the left has become very authoritarian, and that's very bad. And by authoritarian, I mean they not only think that they know what's right, they think they have to enforce it by force. In other words, they think people on the right are either evil or stupid or both, and they don't know what's best for everybody. And so we're going to have to literally take over and control them. They literally want to control you, to control your speech, to control what kind of firearms they want you to have, so forth, so on. So when it comes to rightist policies and philosophies versus leftist policies and philosophies, I'm 100% on the right. And when it comes to whether I believe you should be libertarian or authoritarian, I'm 1,000,000% on the libertarian side. Now, full-on libertarian would be crazy. Full-on authoritarian would be crazy. And for that matter, far right and far left would also be crazy. You have to be somewhere in the middle if you're a common sense, rational person. But I clearly lean to the right, and I clearly lean libertarian. And so that's the number one reason I'm voting for Trump, is he also is those things. There's a group of people out there, and they're generally, in our modern day, Democrats, that are for just about everything I'm against. Why on earth would I vote for their candidate? Now, if anyone is watching this that's a little bit older, and you vote Democrat because your family's always voted Democrat and you think it's the right way to go, listen to me. The Democratic Party of today is not the Democratic Party of Bill Clinton. And it's definitely not the Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy. It's a far left radical party. If anything, the left has moved extremely far to the left, and the Republican Party has actually moved more toward the center. I'm going to touch on this briefly, but I'm going to move on pretty quickly because this is things you hear in a lot of content, and I don't want to focus on that in this video. I want to have a little bit different take on some things. But I will say that I thought Donald Trump did a great job as president. I voted against Trump in all three primaries. I wanted different people to be the Republican nominee. But when it came to the general election, easiest decision I've ever made. The first time around, I wasn't sure how he would govern. Was there a small part of me that was a little worried? Yes. But I knew exactly how Hillary Clinton was going to govern, and I did not want that. So I was a little concerned with Trump, but it was an easy vote, and I definitely voted for Trump. And besides him running up our national debt, I thought he did an amazing job as president. And some people flip out when I say that, and they're like, are you serious? And then I start going through the issues, and they really can't go against what I'm saying. They just have it in their head he was a bad president because of the negative press he got continually. First of all, from Russia collusion, and then this, and then that. It was nonstop negative press. But when you look at what he actually did, he did a great job. And since he lost and was out of the White House, and Biden and Harris came in, it has been an absolute disaster, especially the southern border. But the border was a disaster. The cost of living, inflation, the economy, job growth, it's all been terrible. The way we left Afghanistan, letting 13 people die, taking our military out and leaving all those civilians there, leaving $80 billion worth of equipment for the Taliban to have, the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But clearly I think Trump did a great job as president, and clearly I think Biden and Harris have done a terrible job in their administration. And for those people who try to spin the numbers and focus on like a time when we were in the pandemic under Trump and the government was shut down, and then use those numbers, you can spin it however you want. Everybody knows how the cost of living is today. Housing costs, mortgage costs, gas price, food prices, compared to back then. You don't have to spin the numbers. Everyone can clearly see, so give it a rest on that one. But I want to pan out today, and I want to talk in the bigger picture about what's really going on here. One of the worst things that you can have is if you have one person or group that believes that something that's currently happening is an existential threat, which, by the way, means our existence is about to end, which is insane. And then you have someone else that they're in league with who is willing to support them if they can make some money off of it. An example of that, if you think back to COVID, we had people on the left thinking that if the right didn't wear masks and get vaccinated, we're all going to die. Everyone's going to die. reasonable people are like, well, hold on, you really rushed this vaccine. Maybe I'm just not sure if I want to take it. Let's just think about this. And other reasonable people said, I don't think it's wise to completely shut the government down and lock people in their homes. Other reasonable people said, do masks really stop the spreading? Will the vaccine really keep you from spreading the disease? But all those reasonable people were shut down, treated like idiots and evil people, and we needed to lock them up and throw the key away. That's how people on the left treated those people that brought up reasonable concerns, many of which came to light later as being true. And then you'd watch these people get on, NBC, CBS, CNN, and talk about all this stuff while an ad just played from a big pharma company who also, that big pharma company has a vaccine that they've made, and they're fixing to make a lot of money off people, from the government for purchasing this vaccine for everybody. And so when you have people that feel like there's an existential threat, the people on the left during COVID, and you have people who are in line to make a lot of money, like Big Pharma, you have the perfect cocktail of really bad things happening. The left believes things so strongly and thinks if you don't agree with them, you're just stupid or you're an evil person. Like climate change. Now, anyone who's reasonable knows that there is climate change. It's debatable on whether it just goes in cycles or we are actually heading toward a terrible time where we are going to have some rough things happen. But the left goes crazy and they think it's an existential threat to the entire civilization of mankind if we don't do something. And then they get in business with people who are making the solar panels, making the wind, all that. And they decide, they have to take over. They have to control people who don't understand how critical that this is. Just to be clear, I'm not a climate change denier. There's some truth to it. But you have to be reasonable. Just like those common sense people asking common sense questions during COVID, there's a lot of common sense questions to ask about climate change. Is it really going to flood the entire earth? No. Absolute worst case, what could happen? Are we actually going to have an impact? Can we actually have an impact? If we reduce carbon emissions, is that actually going to do something? How much will it do? What is that going to cost us? And is that going to raise the price of electricity, raise the price of gas, raise the price of living? And how are people in third world countries supposed to do this? They barely have enough heat to survive. And you're expecting them to not want fossil fuels, or like if they can go find some kerosene or some kind of, way to keep their house warm, they don't care about, solar and wind. How are the third world countries going to do this? There's so many logical questions that we should ask and put some practicality toward it. So, okay, climate change is real, but here's a lot of questions, and how we implement it, is important. And so that's just an example. I'm trying to get you to understand that the left thinks, no, this is end of the world type stuff. Do what we say. We're in control. You're idiots. You're stupid. You have to do what we say. And so that's just an example of, people with good motives on the left who have legitimate concerns about something. But instead of being reasonable about it, and let's take our time and ask questions and figure out a practical way to apply this knowledge, they freak out. And if you don't just jump in line with them and just be exactly who they want you to be and do exactly what they want you to do, then they think you're an idiot and they need to control you. And that's one of my biggest problems with the left. You're not going to control me, okay? I don't believe climate change is an existential threat and something in the next 20 years is going to happen to where we're all dead. Which brings me to this last example, and it comes down to misinformation and hate speech and the First Amendment, and once again, the left being authoritarian and trying to control us. I see fake news all the time from the left and the right. I have saw many stories on Facebook that were absolute 100% garbage lies, and some of it came from the right. Now, down deep in the profile somewhere, it might have said satire, but they don't portray it like that. Like the Babylon Bee is obviously satire, it's funny, everyone gets it. But a lot of this fake news, this misinformation, it doesn't portray itself as satire. It's just flat out lies. So I get that there's misinformation. I'm not denying that. It happens on all sides. I also understand with AI and deep fakes, it's a serious concern, and we definitely need to look into it. But the left portrays this misinformation only coming from the right. And they are like the arbiters, they are the enforcers to stop misinformation. All these mainstream media corporations and newspapers and things, they're all on one side and act like the only company putting out any kind of false information is Fox News out there, which is ridiculous. Every speech by Harris that I've watched, or every part of a speech by her that I've watched, I've seen her tell the same lies over and over and over again, taking Donald Trump out of context in multiple cases. You know, the whole thing about good people on both sides, although he clearly later said he didn't mean the neocons in the same speech. Or when he told some people, you just need to vote for me once and you'll never have to vote again. He was talking to people who didn't vote very much. Their voting was just down. Just these people just do not vote very much. And he was talking to some people like that, and he said, at least vote for me one more time so that I can get in and do the things that I need to do. But then Harris campaign says, oh, he's saying you vote for him and he'll never leave office. So that's a lie. At best, it's an assumption that he didn't actually say, but you took him out of context and you're lying. And then he made the statement, he's going to be a dictator on his first day. And he was talking about the same thing that Biden did and the same thing that every president does. On their first day, there's a lot of executive orders that they can pass, basically reversing everything from the previous president if they were the other party. And so he's going to come in and he's going to do certain things on his first day. He didn't say he would be a dictator starting on day one and then on from there. It was a lighthearted, tongue-in-cheek statement saying, on day one, I'm going to be a dictator. And it's just things like that, time and time again. They're not portraying these things with any kind of context. They're literally providing misinformation. They're taking things he said out of context without explaining what he meant, and basically telling the American people that he is saying he's going to be a dictator, vote for him and you'll never have to vote for anyone else because he's never leaving office, and things like that, which he did not say. That is a lie. And that happens from Harris on her campaigns, on walls, and on these network stations. They repeat this stuff all the time. That is the definition of misinformation. They go on and on and on about January 6th and election denial. When Hillary Clinton denied the election for 2 years, all we heard about the first 2 years of President Trump's term was Russia collusion. Every day, every night on the news, they nonstop talked about what the latest thing here was, and this person said this, and where's the investigation at with Comey? But the point is, Hillary Clinton literally said the election was stolen from her, and Donald Trump was only the president because of Russia interference. But they don't talk about that. They just talk about Trump's election denial, which, by the way, I don't agree with. I think it's shameful the way Trump acted on January 6th. He didn't ask those people to be violent. They broke into the Capitol on their own. But his rhetoric was terrible, in my opinion. So if your reason for not voting for Trump is his election denial, and you just can't fathom how I could vote for Trump, what about Hillary Clinton in 2016? Or these people that talk about how Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar. The Democratic vice presidential nominee right now lies like every time he gets up there. There's another lie that he's told. And, oh, he's just a knucklehead. He don't mean nothing by it. He's a good guy. But then Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar. It's hypocrisy. It's unfair media coverage. It's misinformation. But what it really comes down to, and this is where I wanted to go with this, the term hate speech. The main reason that Elon Musk has went over to the Republican side, the main reason why a lot of people on the left are now voting for Trump, or at least move more moderate, is because of some of the things that the Democratic far left party has been saying and been doing. You know, for the last 5 or 6 years, they've been adamant about canceling people, about censoring people, And it's the hate speech, it's the misinformation, but in reality, it's just people that they don't agree with, and they're trying to shut them down. That's where the authoritarianism comes back into play. It's one thing if you are voting for Harris, and you believe in the things she stands for, and you want to get on a platform, a social media platform, and just speak your mind. I am in no way, I might completely disagree with your points, with your assertions, with everything, but I am in no way going to try to cancel you, censor you, deplatform you, or punish you. But that's not the case with a lot of people on the left. They literally will tell you, well, we're for freedom of speech, but not misinformation or hate speech. But here's the problem, is they want to dictate, they want to control what they consider to be misinformation. I've given you examples of where they're clearly misinforming people. Okay? The media, the left, whoever. But that's going to be overlooked. Okay? Just like Hillary Clinton's election denials is overlooked, but they focus on Trump's. Misinformation coming from the left will be overlooked. But misinformation coming from the right, oh, we have to censor them. We have to deplatform them. We have to do this and that. They think they should be the ones who decide what's misinformation. And it's the same thing with hate speech. Now, we all know there are certain things that you're going to say that you're going to be held accountable for. You know, if you go into a building and yell fire and cause a stampede and someone gets hurt, you're accountable for that if there wasn't really a fire. If you went in there and lied and caused people to react in a way that caused some people to be injured, you are liable for that. And so you have a right to say whatever you want, but yes, in certain circumstances, you could be held responsible for it. The Democrats want to apply that the way they see it. And their hate speech is just if you disagree with the things we're telling you. Just like during COVID, they would say masks will stop the spread of the disease. If you question that, it's hate speech. It's misinformation. We have to censor you. Or if they would say the vaccine will stop the spread of the disease, you question that, it's hate speech. It's misinformation, and they'll censor you. And so if you don't fall in line with transgender stuff that's going on, with LGBTQ stuff, maybe you're a Christian like me, and your views just don't align with some of those organizations, that's hate speech, and hate speech is an exception to free speech. Well, actually it's not. And by the way, it's not hate speech. I don't hate those people. I don't hate anybody. I love people. But I'm free to believe something because of whatever reason that I might want to believe it. Hate speech sounds like such a good thing. Oh, we have to ban hate speech. We have to enforce, canceling people because of hate speech. No. You don't want to go down that path, guys. It wouldn't be any different if the shoe was on the other foot and Trump said we needed to ban certain speech. I would be 100% against it. Trump said, well, we need to ban certain speech. And we said, well, who determines what is that speech? And Trump said, I do. I'd be 1,000,000% against that. And so would everybody else. But when the left, the far left, says they're the ones that decide what's hate speech and what needs to be banned, I'm against that too. And you should be as well. I'm going to get really personal for a second and get to the root cause. And I'm going to mention one other word that nobody on this planet wants to say because it's the most divisive word in the history of the universe. I'm going to say it here in a second. I believe in God. Okay? I believe God is the creator of this universe, of this earth, of the human race. I'm a theist, so I believe he cares about people and the future of the human race. And I believe that morality comes from him. I can have my own sense of morality and decide what I think is okay and right or wrong. And you could have your sense of what's right and wrong. And Hitler could have his sense of what's okay to do, what's not okay to do, what's right or wrong. In the end, it's just all of our opinions. Well, there has to be a higher standard. So I believe that morality comes from God, and God sets the standard. And so the word that I mentioned before is sin. There's no word that makes people madder than the word sin. How dare you say that something I'm doing is sinful? Well, maybe I'm telling you that's what God is saying is sinful. I believe abortion is murder. and I believe murder is a sin. If that upsets you, well, I believe that, and I feel that way because I believe that's how God feels. And there's some LGBTQ and some transgender things out there that I believe is sin. Because I just hate people? No, I don't hate those people. Because I hate the things they're doing? Really, it just comes down to because I believe that's what God feels about it, okay? And there's nothing more that'll make people on the left more mad than what I'm saying right now. They can't stand it. But you just have to ask yourself, is there a God? Is he real? Is he the creator? And if so, what does he think about this? I believe that before there was ever a Republican or Democratic Party, before there was ever even a government, before there was ever a church or a people or a nation or anything, God created the family. Okay? One man, one woman, having children, having a family. That's literally how God designed it. And so as a Christian, if I simply quote Bible verses and tell you that I believe certain actions are sins, that's not me spewing hate. That's just simply me telling you what I believe, looking to a higher power and a higher authority. But the left would go crazy if they hear me say the things I just said, and they would call that hate speech. And so I'm giving you this example because I want you to see how dangerous the authoritarian leftist Democratic Party is today. Now, I understand that here recently, Harris is all of a sudden not against guns. She's all about guns now. She's on record of saying she is for a mandatory buyback of guns. And I get that she's saying, oh, we're not for defunding the police, we're pro-police. She's on record of saying she agreed with some sort of defunding of the police. In reality, Biden and Harris are puppets. They don't go against the tide with their party. Whatever their party wants, they're going to do. Trump's not like that. There's been plenty of things that his party wanted him to do, and he doesn't do them. He does what he believes is right, okay, and is going to help the American people. And the Republican Party really has changed, become a more populist party, become a party that's more for the common man. Besides Elon Musk and a few B or C level celebrities, all the rich and famous people in America are Democrats. All the money is Democrats. The establishment is Democrats. The side of the common folk has become the Republican side. The blue-collar worker, even unions are starting to come over to the Republican side because it's the side of common sense, of normal people. The left has become, honestly, the side of the rich people, the elites. Barack Obama, he's worth like $75 million, lives in his ridiculously nice estate, and then he'll come out every once in a while and lecture people. A lot of these prosecutors that live in these inner cities who are letting these criminals out, violent criminals are being let out, and there's crime all over the place. Crime is terrible. There's homelessness everywhere. These cities are falling apart, but yet these prosecutors and all these other politicians who run these cities are living in gated communities with armed guards, guns that they act like are evil, but they have armed guards in gated communities. They don't have to deal with all the violence and the chaos and the homelessness. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on the left, and there's a lot of common sense going on the right. There's a lot of trying to control you on the left, and there's a lot of let's do what's best for the American people on the right. But hopefully this can explain to some people why I would vote for Trump. I do think he did a great job as president. I do stand with him on a lot of issues. But the main reason is because I am that much against the left and them trying to control me. Maybe they believe climate change and hate speech is such a strong and powerful evil in this world that they have to go to all lengths to do whatever. Maybe they deeply down believe that, but I'm telling you, I'm not standing for that. No one's going to take my First Amendment away. No one's going to claim I'm using hate speech when I'm not hateful. I don't hate anybody. By the way, why do they want to take guns away? They want to take guns away so they can control you. They act like they care about certain things, but really it's all about control. They want to control you. They want to take your guns away. They want to take speech away from you that they deem as hate speech, which they are not the judges of what's hate speech or not hate speech. If you are for defund the police, for late-term abortions, for drag queen story hour, communism, labeling everything that you don't agree with hate speech, being authoritarian and trying to control people, taking our guns away. If you're for these things, you probably should vote for Kamala Harris. But if you're a Republican, if you're a Christian, or if you believe in at least half of the things I'm talking about, don't be duped. Don't get focused in on one little thing or the actions or even some of the things that Trump is saying. You need to pan out, look at the big picture. Hopefully this has made sense to you. Leave a comment whether you liked it or not. Hopefully you have a great day. Until next time, take care.